The departure of L'Jarius Sneed has left a big gap at the Chiefs' cornerback position. Who's going to end up filling that position? We don't know for sure. Steve Spagnuolo has talked about, it's not really like replacing L'Jarius Sneed. You're not going to be able to do it with one guy. We know that. There's also been talk of Trent McDuffie playing more on the outside and Jamari Conner filling more of that slot role. So there really is only one position, it would seem, up for grabs. There's two players that have a lot of playing time over the past couple of years, Joshua Williams and Jaylen Watson. Today, we are going to fast forward into the 2024 season and start talking about some of these camp battles, some of these position players that are going to need to step up in training camp and the preseason and take some of these starting jobs. Like I said, starting off at the cornerback position with Jaylen Watson and Joshua Williams. This is the RGR Football Channel. My name is Daniel Harms, Senior Film Analyst. And if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you please hit that sub button and then follow along in this film breakdown so that I can earn a like from you all as we get through the nitty-gritty of this defense in Kansas City and how these two players are going to be able to really take that next step and who fits the mold of that maybe L'Jarius Sneed boundary corner better than the other. Let's get into it. So we're going to talk about these guys right now. And honestly, they're both fit for this defense. They do a lot of things well that Steve Spagnuolo, Dave Merritt like. Right now, this is the Week 18 game against the Los Angeles Chargers. Both of them are playing. You got Josh Williams up top, Jaylen Watson at the bottom of your screen. Let me just make that a little bit bigger for you guys. Let me see that. There we go. That's a bit better. So you got both of these guys down. And what I like about this is that it really does show, in my opinion, both of their strengths in the exact same clip. So we're going to focus on Josh Williams at the top of the screen against Quentin Johnston of the Los Angeles Chargers. You see him turn when he realizes that Quentin Johnston's coming to the inside. He turns, keeps that hand on the inside or the outside hip, and drives with him through the route. So there you go. Good job keeping his right hand, that inside hand on Johnston, so he can keep with that inside pocket, the hip pocket as we like to call it, and drive with him on that route. Down at the bottom of your screen, you see not L'Jarius Sneed. We have Jaylen Watson, who's going to do a little bit of back pedal here. And that's where we get into what he does best. Again, in my opinion, is that he's better as an off-man coverage corner, a little bit of zone matched into it, but he's got good footwork and he has really good hip sync. You'll see right here, he stops. He's able to really turn and flip his hips with Joshua Palmer on that out route. So being able to stay patient in there, flip his hips, accelerate with the wide receiver here. Again, he's going to end up backing off. The route is going to come out, stop, and then go to the out. And that's what you like to see from Jaylen Watson, is that he's going to end up playing a little bit off, but he stays, he's able to stay in there on that route, kind of run it with him. And we always know that receivers are trying to sell something. So we have Josh Palmer trying to sell an inside route, shoulders turned this way. But you see, that's what they want. They want those cornerbacks' shoulders turned to the inside. So they do that, and then he breaks outside, and then does a really nice job of flipping those hips around, staying with Josh Palmer, getting his hands on him. And that's what I like about these players, is that they both do fit a certain mold, a certain aspect that the Chiefs typically have looked for in their draft picks. So here you got Jaylen Watson at the top, Joshua Williams at the bottom of your screen. Once again, Josh Williams on Quentin Johnston, the number one receiver in LA, perceived, especially going forward. So they're both throwing off the timing of this play. We end up seeing an empty formation from the Los Angeles Chargers, and then we just get physical here. This is one of the areas that I really love Josh Williams, and he gets in the breadbasket, in the face of Quentin Johnston, just underneath those arms in there, throwing off that timing, allowing the pass rush to get after the quarterback and throw the football away. And then we got Jaylen Watson at the top of your screen doing the same thing, but his is a little bit different. He moves with that wide receiver inside, gets hands on him, and then he actually gets beat vertical. So he's on the outside hip again. Now he's playing possum. Not really playing possum, excuse me. He's really more playing catch up. That's what I'm trying to say, not possum. He's not playing dead out there. He gets beat on the outside, specifically because he's not as physical in my mind here. So he works with the receiver inside, and then that receiver works back outside, and he keeps his feet out. He doesn't try to move with him, opens the shoulders, and that's where you see the receiver do that double move. There's the out, again, the out route, at least the out fake, and then up the field, which is what breaks off Jaylen Watson here. But obviously, it didn't matter. You threw off the initial timing, and the pass rush was able to get after it. So that's what we're talking about today. Who is going to end up taking the mantle? Who's going to be the starting cornerback next to Trent McDuffie in their base defense? And for those of you that don't know, that maybe have questions about what a typical base defense looks like, this is what it is for the Kansas City Chiefs. 2 cornerbacks on the field, 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom. This was one of the easiest things that I could really show you, with 3 linebackers on the field and 2 safeties, right? So this is a really textbook definition of what it looks like. You've got 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 2 corners, and 2 safeties. This really does a good job of demonstrating that. So who's going to end up starting with Trent McDuffie on the outside? I don't really know who's going to have the leg up as of now, but we also know that the Chiefs like to throw in a ton of dime defense. So earlier when I was talking about who, Tramari Connor coming in, maybe Nick Jones has to play more, and that's where we see the 3 safety sets. You're going to see 1 solo linebacker here in the middle of the field. But this also brings up what the Chiefs like to do with 3 corners and 3 safeties. So Tramari Connor, if he's going to be that 3rd safety, or is he going to play slot? Because now we have the addition of Jaden Hicks on the team. So you could also put Trent McDuffie on the inside and still put Jaylen Watson and Josh Williams out there. So you have 1 linebacker, you have 3 cornerbacks. Actually, that's Justin Reed. 3 corners here. This is Watson, this is Trent McDuffie, and this is L'Jarius Sneed. And then at the top, you've got I keep doing that. It's Justin Reed, Mike Edwards, and Tramari Connor. So this is the typical dime defense. And this, again, could be both Joshua Williams and Jaylen Watson on the field in these types of scenarios. But we got Jaylen Watson at the bottom of your screen here already on the field. They're playing against Jacoby Myers, and you always like to see them playing against some of the better receivers in the league. So that's all that I wanted to show you guys, and we're going to get into both of these players right now. I just wanted to break down a little bit of what the defensive structures look like, especially because Steve Spagnuolo loves to move things around, get these quarterbacks, offensive coordinators off their game. So both players do have quite a bit to play for. Is Kamal Hayden going to come out and be an impact player? Do the Chiefs have something in Najee Johnson? Those 2 guys are unproven regular season commodities. So we're going to focus on the Jaylen Watson part right now, which we are going to get into. And I just want to focus a little bit on his numbers, because he was the presumed 3rd cornerback last year. He played 45% of the regular season defensive snaps in the 15 games that he played. And that opened him up to having more playing time. When you get more playing time, you have more eyes on you. And Jaylen Watson was targeted 43 times. He allowed 274 yards on 22 catches with 4 touchdowns last season. So we look at Jaylen Watson here at the top of your screen. One of the things that I want to focus on for him is, yes, he got more playing time, but what are some of the reasons why you could see maybe a drop off? Maybe he doesn't win that role. But the first clip we're going to talk about here is against the Eagles. They come out and it looks like cover 2. Man to me, except you get a little bit of deception from Mike Edwards. In my opinion, looking at what this should be, you get Brian Cook dropping out here. He should also be dropping out here, or at least dropping under if they want to shade to that side. But let's see, there's watching Jaylen Watson here at the top of your screen, and he's going to be a little bit too patient, flat-footed at the top of the route from Devontae Smith. And obviously when you're running out of a bunch formation, and this is your man here, right here, it can be tough, especially when it's a kind of a delayed release. So he's releasing inside around everybody, and then he's coming open over the middle of the field here. And as Jaylen Watson, I would like to see him kind of get closer, especially because this is 3rd and 5. This is the first down marker. I know you're playing on the line. You should be expecting some help in the middle of the field. So if he's expecting Mike Edwards to be behind him, he should be driving on Devontae Smith right now. So that's why I get a little bit confused on exactly why Mike Edwards is there, unless he's just reading the eyes of the quarterback and rotating down. So from a route versus wide receiver or route versus cornerback perspective, I believe that right here with Jaylen Watson, he can be too patient at the top of the route, and he's waiting right there. When you get flat-footed like that, that's when the receiver is going to break, because it takes you a little bit longer than them to start their cut and their break. So he realizes, Devontae Smith that is, that Jaylen Watson is flat-footed, so he's going to break open over the middle of the field, realizing that this is man coverage. Again, running clear out for that middle part of the field with the underneath receiver. So I'd just like to see him drive on anticipatory throws like that, 3rd and 5 situations. And when you're in motion, try to keep your feet, right? You want to keep your feet moving a little bit. Don't always be flat-footed. Allow yourself to be able to trigger downhill. So that's one of those areas that, we saw the hip flip in that first clip there, but when your feet are still, especially when your hips are already there, like, you have to be able to keep going there. And just looking at the difference in coverage snaps that he played 104 man coverage snaps last year, which is cover 0, cover 1, cover 2 man, allowed 10 catches for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns on 25 targets, and then played 185 zone coverage snaps where he allowed 12 catches for 108 yards and 2 touchdowns on 18 targets. So there's obviously a pretty decent discrepancy from the amount of man coverage snaps that he played versus zone coverage, but it also tells you how often these two players in Joshua Williams and Jaylen Watson didn't play as much, with L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie there, and how many times that the Chiefs rotate with their safeties. So it is a bump in playing experience, but they have, over the last 2 seasons, quite a bit of experience. And there's really hasn't been a rhyme or reason as to why Steve Spagnuolo or Dave Merritt plays either Joshua Williams or Jaylen Watson. But at the end of the day, what we get to see here with the case is that this is really what the Chiefs want to do on the outside. They want to play funnel defense, right? The funnel defense, specifically from the outside corner perspective, is that you can see right here, he's got outside leverage. Mike Edwards is going to come out here, be that deep safety middle. You're going to get Justin Reed to drop out here. But when you play that outside leverage, your shoulders are opening towards the field. You just want to make sure he doesn't beat you down the sideline, and you are funneling to your safety, to the help player. And this is a nice job of just staying with T. Higgins, not getting overly zealous, keeping your hands on him through the route. You're carrying him up, and we see the Chiefs dropping into some zone here. But you also have Nick Bolton coming over the middle of the field. He likes to play, and the Chiefs like him to play with his back to the quarterback a lot. That's an interesting dynamic, but I guess in terms of taking away hands from the tight end or whoever's open over the middle of the field, it works. But this is, again, you got eyes here and hands on T. Higgins, forcing him to that inside. So you've got eyes on the deep routes there, and then this is going to take away those deep routes from the Cincinnati Bengals players, and the quarterback ends up taking off, on second down, getting a first down. But that's typically what we see with these outside corners, thinking back to Trevarius Ward and that archetype of cornerback, like Jaylen Watson and Joshua Williams. They do prefer to funnel, especially because they trust their safeties more in those situations to make those plays. This is a really good positive, I think, for Jaylen Watson. I think he's got much better ball skills than Joshua Williams, and which we're going to get to Joshua Williams. But one of the reasons he's been out there is that, he's got 7 total passes defensed last year, all of them in man coverage. And here we get this cover 1. You're going to have a rotation down with Mike Edwards, but playing down the field on an island against Jakobi Meyers. Really nice job of coming up with this defensive pass breakup here. So Watson is going to wait for the release. You're going to see him turn his head to locate, right? So he's being patient at the release, taking away that inside route because he understands I need to force him towards the sideline. I'm man-on-man coverage here, so I'm going to take him and then use my recovery. You see Jakobi Meyers putting his hand up. He raised his hand there a little bit to show that he was open. But this is another part of Watson's game where he's got recovery speed. Now he's side-side with Jakobi Meyers, and his head's turned around. He's using his outside hand, this right hand of his. I know it's hard to see right here, but he is using his outside hand to tell himself where Myers is. And that's a really nice, important part, because when you do locate, you turn and you look for the football, you can slow down. So if you're slow down, but you keep your hand on the receiver right there, it tells you that you're okay, that he's not leaving, and it gives you an area to work. So he turns and runs with Jakobi Meyers and then locates the football here, staying side by side with him, and then right there gets that hand up, locates. His left hand is able to deflect that pass away and break up a big possible play for the Las Vegas Raiders here. So that's another area that I really wanted to showcase for Watson is why he's got a bonus here, a plus for him. The case for him is that he's able to make some plays there. And especially from the downfield perspective, I think that he can turn and run pretty well. He's not as, physically imposing in terms of physicality, but I think that's where we kind of see this come into play on him. The quickness from some route runners can beat him across the face, and we've seen this from time to time in Kansas City with these corners. They can overcommit to the inside, and Rashad Bateman does a really nice job here running this in route, giving Jaylen Watson the business, and he's going to stem outside once with a little jab step. And then you see the off from Jaylen Watson. He's backing off with him. So he's moving to his right to the outside towards that sideline. And then he gives way to the inside. And I think Bateman understands that with his quickness to the healthy Bateman, I should say, his quickness to the inside, he can manipulate that, specifically because the Chiefs do like to move their safeties around a lot. So you have middle of the field, and he obviously understands that what the routes are. Like, this is almost a clear out part. You get this out here, and he's coming open over the middle of the field. So you've got, now you're behind the receiver who's been a little bit quicker than you in and out of his breaks and jab steps. So just a few things that I think Jaylen Watson can work on is being a little bit more aggressive coming down at the top of breaks, or anticipating third downs and over the breaks over the middle of the field, and then maybe not giving it up right here. Just staying a little bit more patient. We saw him do that with T. Higgins. He wasn't as quick in his route, but just you're in an inside leveraged position here. It's slight, but we do see it, inside leverage. So you got, actually, let's use a real straight line so I can demonstrate it properly. So we can see right here that this is the direction of the feet. So he's got 1 foot outward here. So he is showcasing inside leverage. You don't need to just commit fully to the outside. Trust your instincts, trust your hands. If he goes that way, you can turn and run. You trust your hip flip and your recovery athleticism. But here, he jumps out of the way. Bateman beats him underneath and inside. So all of that just showcasing that I think that he's got some area to improve upon, and he can do that. I do think that this year, we heard rumblings last year of neither Jaylen Watson nor Joshua Williams really improving in training camp, and that led the way for Nazeeh Johnson to come in and possibly be the starter until he got hurt. So that's the case for Jaylen Watson. He was better in zone coverage, and he was better in man coverage than I expected him to be from the number standpoint. But some of those areas that he can work on and improve upon will give him that case to possibly take over as the starter next year next to Trent McDuffie. Let's go ahead and jump into Josh Williams. His stats last year, he played in 29% of the regular season defensive snaps in 16 total games. So he played more games, less snaps. It's pretty obvious that Jaylen Watson was the guy outside of Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed. Last year, first guy off the bench. Quote unquote, first guy off the bench, because oftentimes they rotated and they switched him up. But he played more snaps more often down the stretch of the season and into the postseason than Joshua Williams did. But when we're looking at his actual coverage snaps compared to Jaylen Watson, they're not like hugely disparage. Like, there's not a huge disparity. There's 289 coverage snaps from Jaylen Watson and 228 coverage snaps from Joshua Williams. So he played more from a coverage perspective than a run perspective. So we're going to go ahead and make the case for him right now. Joshua Williams, like I said, he had 228 coverage snaps, and in those, he allowed 119 yards for 3 touchdowns and 11 catches on 25 targets. So, again, he wasn't targeted nearly as much as Jaylen Watson. When you're not on the field as much, you don't get those targets. Pretty obvious, right? See balls, find ball kind of thing. And this is where I really like where we saw the change of direction skills of the hip flip from Jaylen Watson, we're seeing that a little bit here from Josh Williams, and he's playing in zone coverage here as well. You see him back off into more of this cover 4 look from the Chiefs, so he's backing off here, 1, 2, 3, and then Sneed's here, but he's got a receiver close, so he's going to end up taking him. And then you've got Trent McDuffie down here passing off to the next level. So again, he's going to get his depth, eyes on the quarterback, right? We want to see zone coverage cornerbacks with eyes on the quarterback, balls out. So what do you got to do? You got to trigger now to where the ball is. And boom, puts his foot in the dirt, flips those hips around while he's sinking his hips, and then explodes downhill. Gets there, and he meets Stephon Diggs at that 2, second down marker. Falls off the tackle a little bit. But this is where he's got to improve, because when you're watching Joshua Williams from a run defense perspective, he's not uber interested in run and tackling and getting downhill and coming after running backs. So here he does a good job again of triggering, flipping his hips, sinking his hips at the same time to be able to explode out and into his break, or out and downhill. But this is, again, you see him actually get shoulder on, wrap up, doesn't work out. He falls off the tackle there a little bit. He's trying to tackle from the side, so I get that. But just be a little bit better tackling and wrapping up and really driving down with whoever you're tackling, and he can really be better in that area. He's got the length for it. We know he's probably got the size for it, and that's where you want to see him get better. So he's a challenging player. What I mean by that is he does not back down from challenging receivers upfield. And you can see right there, he wants to throw off that timing. And this is where I'm likening him to what L'Jarius Sneed does and why he might be in line to be able to take the job as the starter next to Trent McDuffie. I know we didn't play as much as Jaylen Watson last year, but we got to make the case, right? And this is where we've seen L'Jarius Sneed be a nuisance, be a factor, timing the physicality, again, getting in the hands, in the chest of the receiver, making him have to get around you, right? He's not someone that will back down to that, and we've also seen penalties come because of it, and penalties happening in shorter amount of time on the field, which your defense coordinator doesn't want to see. But it looks like more of a combo coverage from the Chiefs here. They are going to rotate to a bit of a cover 2 defense, but almost like they have cover 2 and then cover 2 on this side, but almost man coverage right here, like man-to-man here. So it's almost like a combo coverage where you got to the field, to the 3 receiver side, you've got zone coverage, and then you have single man-to-man right here between these two players. So you do see the rotation there. You get Trent McDuffie actually dropping down, Justin Reed rotating out, down underneath, and then this is what that looks like. So you got the rotation here, and then here, and those cover 2 corners here with Willie, I almost did it, with Willie Gay coming downhill, maybe going after the running back here. Yeah, going after the running back. So it looks like man coverage maybe on the top and then zone coverage on the bottom. And that's what they call those combo coverages, which is I like to see, to be honest with you. The Chiefs mixing it up a little bit, not just playing static man, not just playing static zone, being able to rotate, to mix things up from dividing the offense in half almost here and being able to play some zone, being able to play some man at the same time, kind of fun. But again, focusing back on Joshua Williams, who does a really nice job here. Obviously, the ball doesn't go towards the top of the screen. Initially, he does peek over there, but takes it away because the timing is thrown off, especially he's trying to get the ball out quickly. But they changed the offense for Jake Browning in Cincinnati last year, much more quick concepts, getting the ball out. So Joshua Williams, really good in press man and that hip flip at the top of the route to be able to throw off, just stay in that hip pocket and drive with T. Higgins across the field. It's definitely something that I want to see more of, and why I think he could be in line to take that job as the starter with his physicality. And we got the same thing here, more of that timing, throwing off the timing, right? He's just battling. He battles and battles, and I'm going to show you why this ended up working out for a sack is because the quarterback ends up looking at T. Higgins here. So when you see the timing get thrown off, he does a good job of keeping his feet underneath him and moving his way as well. They could have probably thrown the fade there, but the safety was on top of it too. So you have a really nice coordination between Josh Williams and the safety. So right here, we got eyes, right? Eyes looking for the receiver, and he's not there. So I gotta move, and a sack comes of it. So really nice job here from Josh Williams against a number 2 receiver, which he'll see a lot more if he were to be, the guy next year, not named L'Jarius Sneed next to Trent McDuffie. So some good positives here from Joshua Williams, and we're going to get a little bit to his deceleration, because we talked about his hip flips, his ability to be physical, but how are you going to decelerate when you're not as physical? How are you going to keep up? Like, this is a really nice job of using both your hands and your foot speed to keep up with the receiver. We're going to end up rotating here to a cover 1 blitz. So you've got man coverage across the board here on the outside. Rotate down. Safety comes down here. So you've got man coverage here, and they're going to take Justin Reed, blitz him off the end. Nick Bolton's going to blitz off here. And then you've got man coverage, and then 1 safety deep in the middle of the field. So rotate around. You go a couple little blitz here. As a man coverage corner on the outside, this is up to you. You don't have any help underneath. And the really nice job from Joshua Williams to decelerate with the receiver here. Right there. He can run the route with him. That's an impressive job, again, in the postseason, in combination with the pass rush, to be able to force an incompletion here. And again, he's not coming open over there. And let's just give a little love to Trent McDuffie, guys. A little more love to Trent McDuffie, who is now the number 1 cornerback in Kansas City. Nice job of comboing down. You see that they did a little bit of the Ravens did a little bit of that motioning out. So you've got this receiver coming open over the middle of the field, at least trying to. So you pass off the receivers, and Trent McDuffie now has responsibility on Nelson Aguilar, triggers downhill. That's what I want to see from him, or more from Jaylen Watson, like being able to trigger downhill quickly while you're flat-footed, if you are flat-footed. But we watch Trent McDuffie there. He keeps his feet square enough, and then he's able to turn his hips and accelerate through, right? Jaylen Watson kind of like waited at the top and then got caught that way. But that's neither here nor there at this point. So Josh Williams, again, that deceleration is impressive to be able to run those routes with the receiver. Like, nice job. Just keep those hips underneath you, your feet underneath you. Trust your recovery athleticism. And where we talked about Jaylen Watson and his ball skills being a positive for him, we are going to talk about this in the negative light from Joshua Williams, because, well, he did have 4 passes defense last year. In 81 coverage snaps again in man coverage, he had 14 targets, 9 catches, and 80 yards, and 3 touchdowns with 2 defensive pass interferences. So he's not the best in terms of man coverage, which is funny because I do think that his skills as a press man corner translate better, but this is probably in part reason why. He's trying to reduce the wide receiver to the outside here, who's going to end up beating him down the field eventually. And we talked a little bit about tracking the football, right? So a good job here. He's on top of the receiver, which is what you want. And then he looks to find that ball, right? He's trying to find the football, trying to keep his hands on the receiver, but he slows down. And that's where the receiver gets behind him. Unfortunately, fortunately for the Chiefs and for Josh Williams, the receiver was unable to make the catch here. But you have to be able to keep accelerating downfield, and those ball skills and the ball tracking aren't quite there for him. But the effort, the willingness to do a lot, he's up here at the top of your screen, but this play has nothing to do with him in terms of making a play. This has to do with him helping a teammate score and picking up a fumble. Mike Edwards, you got Josh Williams running all the way down the field, making blocks, trying to make something happen for his team. So we want to see that effort from Joshua Williams translate to other areas of his game in the offseason. How much effort is he putting into the work ethic? Is he getting better tracking the football over his shoulder? Is he getting better at not, maybe it's sustaining that speed downfield when he's looking to track the football? In the run game, how is that effort going to come in if you're on the field more? Are you going to be able to come downhill and make an impact in the run game or in the screen game, in the quick screen, being able to identify those and want to make the hits, take the proper angles, and get better from that perspective? So Josh Williams, there's the case for him to be able to make the leap and take over as the cornerback 2 next to Trent McDuffie. Looking at the skill set for each of these players, Jaylen Watson, I think, has the better overall, the total package skill set, being able to play zone, being able to play man a little bit better. From a L'Jarius Sneed physicality perspective, I think Joshua Williams and his ability to square up, play press man, and physically throw off the timing of receivers, it leans to him. So are we going to see someone actually take over, or are we going to continue to see rotation? Are we going to see rotation? It's possible. Or are we going to get a dark horse coming in and booting one of these guys, or booting both of them out and saying, no, I'm the starter? So this training camp battle is going to be a lot of fun to watch from these two players' perspective, but also you add Kamal Hayden, you add Nazeeh Johnson into the mix. Who's going to be able to come out on top there? What are they going to do with the slot position? Chamari Connor, is Trent McDuffie going to stay on the outside like L'Jarius Sneed did? All of these things are going to be answered in due time. I'm looking forward to seeing what these two players can do, and maybe if they can take a next step in their process and evolution, because they've been the same players the last 2 seasons. So hopefully we get to see some from Williams and Watson in training camp, that they've gotten better and being able to, be able to project more in this defense and be more of a bigger part of what it is now than what they have been to this point. So I hope you guys enjoyed this film breakdown and getting to see what both of these players can possibly do, the case for them, and how they're going to be able to be that number 2 cornerback. I don't know who you guys want, so in the comment section, I want to hear who you want to be cornerback 2. Is it Jaylen Watson? Is it Joshua Williams? Is it a dark horse? Maybe an outside hire at this point. We don't really know. Maybe the Chiefs aren't completely set at cornerback for training camp. So again, I'm excited for it. I hope you guys are excited for it. And then again, have a great rest of your day. If you guys are new to the channel, before you leave, hit that sub button and become a member of Rogue Nation here on RGR Football. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time.